we live in a world where social media is so big, right? And you guys as pastors, like, how do you still manage people in this social media era? And I don't care who takes the first question.
Oh, man. I mean, it's extremely difficult to do. Because as much as you would like to, you can only do so much pastoring and discipleship via the internet. Right. You can only be so effective at it. I would not suggest that you can't be. And the other thing is there's so many voices.
So many.
Right? And so with all of the voices, it becomes difficult for the people to be able to filter out and weed out and weed through and then connect with a particular voice. Right? Yeah. And the rapidity of who's popular today, right, and gone tomorrow, and so all of these up and down voices. Here's the thing: I believe in the digital space, the social media space, and how we can use it in an effective way for the kingdom. Right. But we just have to watch those kinds of things. It's almost like this. You just imagine in the social media space the temptation and even the opportunity to church hop. Yeah. So from one voice, I'm watching, you know what I mean, Dr. E. Dewey one week, and then I'm watching Dr. Cosby another week, and then I'm
Kanye
watching
pop up, and then you got to deal with that too.
Precisely. So all of that, man, makes it difficult for a person like us when it comes to people who are connected to our fellowships. We're having to preach and teach and speak in a way that it drowns out, or it supersedes, or it's the greater influence in our people's heart. And it creates pressure too. And Pastor Kelly will talk on this. It creates pressure for us to be informed. Yeah, bro, absolutely. I don't have time to pray. Right. Let alone be trying to be on IG and TikTok to see what the latest greatest is and so forth and so on.
But if you don't,
but it's a necessary evil now, because that's where our people are. So we have to spend time being informed and aware of what's happening in the culture, particularly in the digital space.
Everything you said is spot on. I think one thing I will say is you cannot be intimidated by it. Right. I think once you are confident and comfortable in who you are, it's at that particular point, it's not as intimidating, because you can kind of start measuring yourself based upon, like you said, who's popular, right? So when you're confident,
and the clicks,
absolutely. So it becomes then, how do I use this platform as discipleship from a digital perspective, and then trying to help you people to understand, look, there's a certain voice that you are assigned to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Correct.
And so the danger is you got some different appetites based upon your indulgence, if you will. But it's a whole teaching opportunity as well to say, okay, we can use this to further the kingdom, but at the same time, I think there's going to always be some tension because of this day and time in which we're living in. So number one, not being intimidated, but number two, how can you most effectively do it to where it calls your people to want to be able to link in.
I can dig it. So listen, y'all fly dudes, man. Matter of fact, y'all the second flyest dudes in this building right now. But what? So what do you say to folks that say, man, pastors ain't supposed to be that fly. They're not supposed to drive a new vehicle. They don't need a helicopter and a plane. Like, what do you say to people like that?
Here's what I think it has a lot to do with culture.
And when you say culture, do you mean church culture, black culture? Like, what culture are we talking about?
I think it's a combination.
Okay.
Because some of that comes from a poverty mindset, but at the same time you understand it. But then the other piece is, is that too over the top? I think the culture that you create and cultivate shows individuals based upon stewardship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can live a certain way and not be ashamed of it. I think as a pastor, as the chief leader, so to speak, or chief steward, you have to know who you're leading. But then there's this evolving for everybody.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? So now I shouldn't be looking the same way you first saw me 10 years ago.
Right.
There should be some type of progression. But I think it's a matter of teaching. And so for us, we all should be growing.
Yeah.
You know, as our motto is, as you grow, we grow. So
Right.
I think kind of teaching that culture to kind of dismiss some of these misconceptions to a degree, to let them know, hey, it's not all bad, but at the same time, it should get to a point where you say, man, I want my pastor to
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Look like
And I
he is.
want to be in a better position
Absolutely.
as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can dig it.
I would generally think that most people who are connected to a local community of faith would want their pastor
Sure.
and his family to do well. I think as Pastor Kelly was saying, it's kind of like teaching, man. You got to help us to be able to balance those expectations.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because truly, to be honest with you, man, I don't want a raggedy pastor,
Nah.
right? But at the same time, I don't want Daddy Rich either, right? So, you know, because some people will, they only give you permission to go so far,
Right.
have so much,
That's key.
do so much. So
Right.
we have to balance the expectations. At the same time, I want you to do okay, but you know, I don't know how far is acceptable that I'll be comfortable with. And with that being said, I think pastors have a certain responsibility there too.
I agree.
You know what I mean? It's just certain stuff that, and it's not even about secrecy or being disingenuous and non-disclosing and that. It's just certain things, man, that you're a man who has a family.
Right.
And some of our stuff as it relates to me being a man and having a family, man, that's our business. Right. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So pastors have to know how to not overexpose themselves.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult.
It
It's
is.
very difficult.
Because they watching.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the social media thing.
Oh,
That whole culture and environment. And I'm not knocking, because some pastors just got it like that, bro.
Absolutely.
And I think they should just be who they authentically
Absolutely.
are.
Absolutely.
And if that's how they live, if that's how they drive, they just should need to live and drive that way. But then those who don't necessarily have as much, you know what I mean? Be cool, as you were saying. Hey, be cool with your station.
Right.
And where God has you.
Right.
And live that out to the fullest. But at the same time, balance it. Think about this, man, this way. Our whole deal is based up on people's willingness to support what we do with their time, you know what I mean, and their resources.
Absolutely.
And we're only able to do this stuff because of that generosity that the Lord has created in their heart.
Sure.
Okay. Now you want to be responsible, and just imagine that. Would you continue to give and support somebody who you felt like was irresponsible?
Absolutely not.
Too showy,
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not raggedy, you know what I mean?
Right.
But just, you know what I mean?
Right.
But so I think pastors have a certain part to play in that.
Sure.
And sometimes what I mean by that is, again, it's just not everybody's business where you vacationing.
Yeah. Right.
Because if I'm vacationing, I mean I'm trying to get away from y'all.
Exactly, right?
And
Why am I posting pictures about it then, right?
And I don't want to be like, oh, we on our way to the DR too.
Yeah.
Wussy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you just want to be careful about how you expose your people. But I think pastors, man, hey, man, part of the way we live, it depends on what the will of the Lord is for your life. But I think in many ways, the glory of God can be seen in pastors' life. I feel like I'm talking too much, but let me say it this way.
No, you good.
I feel like it's more about the people than it is the leader.
Okay. In what way?
In the sense of this, I think a king's value and worth is really determined by the commonwealth of the citizenry of his kingdom.
Now you're talking global business.
This is what
you got me.
Indeed.
All right.
So when 1 Kings chapter 10, Queen of Sheba goes to see Solomon.
Sure.
And her spirit is taken. I mean, she's overwhelmed at what she witnesses and sees, not only just because of Solomon's wisdom, but also what she identified. She said, he told me everything that I ever asked and thought, but what she really identified and highlighted was the outfit that his cupbearer was wearing. You know what I mean? She like, hey, his servants is fly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I'm saying, so you can imagine how the value of a pastor
Sure.
in my book is based upon how well the congregants, the people who make up the fellowship where he leads is doing. And I'm saying that in every sense of the form, not just financially, physically, but also mentally, emotionally, and spiritually as well. Man.
Yeah,
So
holistically.
I went off on a tangent there, but I think it's important.
But on that point, man, how do you store the image in 2025 as a pastor with all of those things kind of swirling around in your mind, you know?
Well, I struggle.
Yeah.
I struggle for two reasons, but go ahead.
It's challenging. I mean, because, for us, and I'm sure Pastor Taylor said the same thing, you know, who God has given him, you know, leadership over, who, you know, THC, so to speak, he's embodying the values, he's living them out, right? So same thing as ALC, you know, 7 perspectives of our ministry purpose. One includes financial transformation. So it's not necessarily just tithes and offerings, but let's talk about the other 90.
Right. Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So now this image, you know, is embodying what it is that I've been assigned or what my call is, and so exhibiting that. So again, it kind of goes back into this previous question. Combined with that is I'm living out what it is my assignment is for the community
Right.
that I've been assigned to as well. So I think you're going to always have people to try to discredit,
Of course.
or have their own personal description of what I'm supposed to look like or what we are supposed to look like. But you just got to be confident and say, I hear what you're saying, but I dismiss that pleasantly to say I know who I am.
And pull your cape and turn
Absolutely.
on them.
Right. So, you know, hopefully that makes sense. But I think that's kind of the way I kind of look at it,
Man, so to be honest with you, and I feel like Pastor Kelly would agree, the image that we should be focusing on is the image of Christ.
Absolutely.
And the reason I said I struggle, because just in my humanity and who I am, I probably think about cussing too much.
He do.
You know what I mean? I struggle being able to uphold, and just in my humanity, man, my fallenness. But then as it relates to image, as we would think about it from a social, cultural standpoint, I struggle with that too, because I would say I don't have one. You know what I mean? Because I put no time and energy, probably less than what I should in focusing on that. And I'm gonna say the reason I say that is because how you perceive is how you will receive. And if I can impact, influence in a positive way, not necessarily control how I'm perceived, then I'm directly impacting how I am received.
Sure.
So if you perceive me as a bum,
Right.
you're gonna receive.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you perceive me as someone who's unlearned and not erudite, then that's how you receive.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So I think in those regards, where it matters, and I'm gonna say it like this: Solomon says, "A good name is better to be desired." So really, more than what you think about how much money I have or how many people I know. And to be honest with you, we go in my phone, I can call some folks, but I don't name drop like that, right?
Yeah.
But regardless of all of that, my name needs to be right.
Absolutely.
My name needs to be
something,
clean. Anybody you talk to, they need to be able to say, hey, man, if Pastor Ray said he's going to do it, if Ray T said he's going to do it, he's going to do it. So I think for me, that's where I focus on more of trying to make sure that I'm being perceived the right way based upon who God has made and is making me to be. So I don't really worry about the other part.
Right.
You know, the church has to make money, man. And
It
so
does.
when we think about the principle of tithing, like how do you teach that to a layman nowadays?
All right.
Must have hit a nerve. Did I hit a nerve?
You got time.
Man. Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me.
Right.
At Malachi 3.
Right. What have you not used?
Yeah, man. Well, you know,
Yeah.
so for our church, man, we really don't trip like that. We just try to teach the whole counsel of the Bible, and in its context, from a covenant standpoint, from a dispensational standpoint, all that kind of good stuff. And so for us, we don't preach or teach the law of tithing. We preach the principle of tithing. If you go and you look at our belief statements and our value statements, you'll see that, hey, we here at Trinity Harvest, the tithe is the standard. That's just like where we begin when it comes to our giving.
Sure.
But we like to give more. We give extravagantly over and beyond. But if you look in the scripture, man, Abraham gave a tithe to Melchizedek. Jacob, and we talk about half a millennia before Moses was ever even born to write the law.
Absolutely.
Jacob, you know, in his experience with the Lord, he said, man, look, if you bless me, everything you give me, I'm going to give you a tenth. Absolutely. So it's really about my personal connection and relationship with the Lord in terms of him being front and center, the most important thing in every area of my life. So for me, when I tithe, I demonstrate, Lord, you're way more important than TXU. You're way more important than the mortgage company. You're way more important, you know what I mean? So I'm going to honor you first, and then we'll parse out and figure out the rest of it.
Yeah. I think that is key. We've tried to take a different approach this year, and tried to help the people to understand that it's more spiritual than it is carnal.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. So God is truth. His word is truth. Right. Every word he says is him. So if he's speaking it, it must mean something. Right. That worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Right. So trying to help them understand from a tithing standpoint, it's spiritual.
Right.
Right. Number one. And then, as Pastor Ray just mentioned, think of it as when I give, I'm getting closer to him. A stronger relationship with him. And so not necessarily trying to beat the people over the head.
Right.
You better tithe, or else. No, let me just teach you.
Right.
And let me help you to understand that it's a matter of the heart.
Yeah.
And to your point, it's putting him first before I do anything. And when God knows that he has your heart, then he can trust you with more.
Let me say this right here, because that was that Old Testament stuff with Abraham and Jacob.
Yeah.
But New Testament is where you are right there. That's the way of Christ. That's right dead smack in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount.
Absolutely.
Matthew chapter 6, verse 21. Where you find a man's treasure,
there your heart will be also.
There will his heart be also. Jesus said, hey, man, don't put all of your resources in the things that don't matter, the things that are going to rust, that are going to fade, that are going to eventually wear out.
Absolutely.
But since my heart is connected to my pocketbook, I'm going to know if you love me. I'm telling you, I can tell what you love. You might say you love that woman, you love them children, or you love this or that.
Yeah.
But if I look at your bank statement and see what you spend your money on, then I'll be able to tell you what you truly love.
Don't do that, because then you have to kick people out to church. Man.
Indeed. But now we learn this too, because in that same passage, he says no man can serve two masters.
Right. Absolutely.
You're gonna love one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth and mammon. And we learned it like this: money is a horrible master, but it's a great servant.
Absolutely.
It's a great servant. Solomon says over Ecclesiastic, money is a defense.
Right.
You know what I mean? Money answereth all. So money makes a wonderful servant. And so I'm saying that to say money is a tool, right?
Yeah.
And when we understand money for what it is and why God has given it to us, we begin to leverage it for its purpose. You know, medium of exchange, currency, trade, that's as old as humanity, right? But of course, if we make money our idol, then we're going to justify.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we're going to justify, and we'll blame it on somebody else. Nah, man, you know, Pastor, he trying to get the money, man. Look what he driving at. You know what I mean? We'll make up any excuse, and the truth of the matter is it's just a spiritual thing. It's just a heart thing. Just say you're spiritually immature. Just say you don't love the Lord.
Because we can meet you there.
Oh, yeah. We can talk about it.
If you start talking crazy, then you got to go.
And most of us pastors, we done had some seasons in time where we had to grow up in our money too when it came to the Lord and trusting him that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And deacons.
Let me add this what you said.
Yeah.
Idols.
Correct.
Many people don't realize that their money is their idol.
Right.
And that is exposed through teaching.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think just really helping people to see that and then recognizing in the Word of God, he talked about money, over
a whole lot of time. Yeah,
over 2,000 verses.
Correct.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he knew
Yep.
the grip that money would have on our hearts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's very important. I think with the teaching on it, I think a lot of people will get liberated as it relates to, quote unquote, what they doing with the money.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Before we shift gears, last question I got on this mindset is, when you start thinking about unpacking, you're going to have to punch that because I messed up. I lost my question. Oh, there it is. All right. So I know you guys are business owners, you're pastors, you're family men, all these things, right? You're also mentors. Mm-hmm. So when you think about the young men and women that you're mentoring, what do you tell them about burnout?
Pastor Kelly got to answer that one.
Man, that's a good question. When you think about burnout, you're empty.
Yeah.
Right. But I think for me, you go through seasons of it. Mm-hmm. That's just the reality. That's the harsh reality of it. Mm-hmm. But some of my greatest testimonies have been when I've been weak, then I've been made strong.
Wow. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say this is the answer to burnout, because I think different seasons require certain things where it will, especially ministry, exhaust you. But I think my encouragement to a young leader would be make sure that you have the counsel, you know what I mean, to help you with that. Pastor Taylor tell you, hey, I've called him. We've had some great, vulnerable conversations.
Right. Yeah.
So I think wise counsel is key to kind of help encourage you to stay in the race, because there will be seasons and moments where you're like, man, the heck with this. I'm done with
I
this.
can do something else.
But for a young individual, no matter their age, I think it's very key for them to have a support system to kind of keep them encouraged. And I think sometimes you have to be strategic in that to make sure that you have the right voice speaking into your life.
Yeah.
To kind of help you to be the man or young woman of God that God would have you to be. So
I can dig it.
Yeah.
I would agree 1,000% with that, man. And most of us, and I don't want to be impractical and be a hypocrite and pretend that I do it well, or I don't do it as well as I should. I'm saying self-care, taking time off, taking time away,
Sure.
Metering and measuring. I mean, y'all some young boys, man. I'm gonna be 50 this year, so
I got it. Hey, I got it. He trying to catch me.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that accountability piece is important,
Right.
and I need to do a better job of this. And it comes through submission on our part as pastors, and it comes through, again, as you said earlier when we talk about the money thing, teaching.
Sure.
So your elders board, deacons board, or whoever the governing body of the fellowship, they need to insist
Right.
that we don't kill our pastor. And sometimes it ain't the people. Sometimes it is the pastor. Pastor, you got to take some time off.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Even if not for your own sake, for your wife's sake.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? But that accountability and having that voice,
Sure.
father in the ministry, or apostolic council, elders, board or group, to actually check in,
Right.
to ensure that you're doing that.
Because really what you do is you stifle your people's
Absolutely.
growth if
Absolutely.
you don't,
Man, that's key.
get out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And give them some
Absolutely.
time. What would y'all say the role of AI in church is now?
Man, I think that's kind of sort of being defined and understood right now. AI itself, or artificial intelligence, first of all, it's not anything new. I mean, it's been around.
Right. 1953 is when the
Exactly.
first. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even just in modern culture, current culture, bro, if you use Waze or Maps, or for that matter, just a Google search, you're interacting and interfacing with AI. So it's really about defining the application and the ethical use of technology in church, right? And we're now at a place where we're having to ask that question,
Yeah.
Sure.
where we've been using tech for years
without even thinking about it.
Well,
Right.
because nobody was questioning email,
Right.
Because I'm just sending you a message. But now I'm questioning AI because, man, I feel like it's the devil.
Yeah.
Is it? I'm worried about it rivaling the Holy Spirit, man.
Right.
Is Pastor Kelly really exegeting?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Just copy paste. Right.
Or did Claude you know what I mean,
Right.
ChatGPT
Right.
come up with these 3
Right.
points in a hymn?
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, you
But
got.
does that even matter?
So I think it does in the sense of the integrity that's in the heart of the pastor and the preacher.
And that's something.
I believe the word,
man.
I believe the word of God is the word of God. You can't make it no different. And you crazy if you trust AI. You know what I mean?
Right.
In that regard, as it relates to its hermeneutic and hermeneutic and its homiletic. But I'm just simply saying, I think that the word of the Lord is the word of the Lord.
Sure.
So if Claude gave you the Lord is my shepherd, hey, Pastor Kelly, right here is where you say, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
Right.
That's the word of God. Is
Absolutely.
the word of God, man. But I do think that we should be responsible and ethical in our leveraging of these tools. I'm talking too much, but man, the church is the last group to adopt things that could help us to be more efficient.
Right.
There's always this spiritual element of what we do. I mean, it's the grace of God, it's the gospel of God, but there's also practical elements of how we do this. You know,
Yeah.
and so these tools, and I'm just talking about tech, period. Whether you choose AI or any other tech, they can help us to be efficient. I see AI just like I do that digital video wall we have. You know what I mean? It is helping us to be effective at the ministry work that we do. And as long as we're doing it responsibly, ethically, and honoring the Lord with it, I'm cool.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to watch this podcast, but I don't care what you say. I'm cool.
You're spot on. I think that the integrity piece, and you and I have had conversations about this, what you don't want to do is get lazy.
Right.
Correct.
You know what I mean? But at the same time, verify that it is the word of the Lord. Now, anything, as far as the church, statistically speaking, we're always 20 years behind what's going on, right? But I think the best way to say it is you ignore or you push away what you don't understand. So now we're being forced to, you know what I mean, understand it to be effective, and then understand that it can be it is a tool and a resource that we can use to further the kingdom. You know what I mean?
I mean, because you want to get younger as a church,
Absolutely.
right? And so you gotta appeal to the young people. That's what I hear all the time. Young people like, man, it's too old school. I don't want to go in there and all da. But if you're saying, hey, I'm the AI preacher,
Absolutely.
or I'm using this to leverage what I'm doing, I mean, I think you attract more young people.
I am concerned for some of the young cats, though.
Yeah.
Man, I've been in the game. I literally been preaching for next Monday to be 31 years.
Congratulations.
Wow. Congrats, man.
So like I'm longhand, bro. You know what I mean? Flipping through the books.
I'm still doing it.
And when absolutely, as am I. But I worry about them not developing a solid hermeneutic, solid homiletical skills.
Sure.
Because, man, if your Wi-Fi go down, you in trouble. You know what I mean? You got to preach.
Houston, we got a problem.
Yeah. So you understand what I'm saying? I hate to see our young guys and ladies in that kind of situation. So I still encourage you. It's just a tool for efficiency.
Right.
It's a tool to make you more efficient with your time, and then you can do more. Matter of fact, we talk about burnout. Bro, if you let me stop tripping and let me go on and use these tools to be more efficient at my sermon prep, my Bible study prep, my leadership prep, then I might have more time to be with my family to avoid burnout. But go ahead.
So now we got to circle back to burnout.
Yeah.
So now burnout is really defined as me mismanaging my time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the contributor of burnout is what I'm consumed with most of the time, right? Yeah. So that's a tool to kind of help deal with burnout. So
And man, you tripping. You asking these questions that can be 2-hour conversations just on one question, man. Hey, did AI come up with these? They did. AI came up with these questions.
I vetted them, but yeah, they really did.
It did.
So I know y'all are pastors, but you're men also. So when you think about financial decisions that you've made, what would you say is the best financial decision you've made and the worst over the last 20 years or so? Thank you, AI.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, wow. That's a great question, man. That's a good, because, I done took some L's. You know what I mean?
I got more L's than L's.
Man. I don't mean to sound super spiritual, but I'm probably going to say trusting God in that regard. Like, trusting God with, like, whatever is going on, whatever is happening, hey, me and him right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll not pay you.
Oh,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean? And I think probably getting to that resolve, developing, growing spiritually to that point. Now, don't get me wrong, you're supposed to pay people, right? Bible even say that, oh no, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
You need to pay your debts. But I think that's probably the best decision I made. The reason I'm saying that is because now I can sleep at night. And I'm not saying that I'm leaning on God to mitigate my foolishness, you know what I mean, or my irresponsibility financially.
Sure.
But I feel like he's on my team.
Right.
While I am trying, while I am exploring, while I am investing, you know what I mean? I feel like he's on my team, that he'll cover me. And I've had more wins than I have losses, but it's just been some significant L's. Man, I'm in a season of, and I wouldn't even call it an L, because sometimes, man, you just pay for the knowledge.
Yeah, you have to.
You pay for the experience.
It's tuition.
Yeah. It's tuition.
It's tuition, right.
Yes,
it's tuition, yeah. I think what you said is spot on. That's one thing, that's a principle or faith framework I live by, is to make sure God get his off the top. For me, I'm not a tithe, I'm a grace giver. It's a certain percentage that he gets off the top no matter what I get. So during my highs and lows financially, that percentage stays the same. So I'm grateful for that. If I had to say a bad financial decision or some things that I've done, I would say this, and I think a lot of people would have to admit to it, over leverage.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly, yeah.
Because I think you subconsciously you live out a generational financial trauma.
Yeah, we talking about that.
Because if you grew up a certain way, if your folks were surviving, if people really saw what we made, they'd be like, how in the world? And we were making it off of this. You know what I mean? But I think you living subconsciously off that same trauma that your folks had. And the reality is, when you come up not having it, no sooner as you make it, you can spend it. So I think for me, that would be something I really learned, over leverage. You know what I mean? And then really understanding that when you live below your means, now you got more money to invest, et cetera, et cetera. And some other things to really think about, forward thinking as far as generational legacy, the future of the ministry. When I'm dead and gone, they good. You know what I mean? On every front. So yeah.
I mean, a practical example, and I don't know, I think this is just maybe part of the territory with being an entrepreneur, a business, small business owner, whatever, whatnot. Man, I'm just thinking about some of the L's. And just in a very practical sense, man, a traffic light. He said, man, what do you mean traffic light? Flipping houses. This is back pre-pandemic, you know what I mean? Flipping houses, and bought a property, man. It was a solid property. It was a sale. Husband passed. Wife is just trying to get out of the property. So of course, it was a nice acquisition for us, but it's sitting at an intersection with a traffic light. It's got a big old yard. The house sits way off the street.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this traffic light.
Yeah.
but the house is way off the street.
FYI, only buy McDonald's at a traffic light, not a house.
Or Chick-fil-A. McDonald's or Chick-fil-A at a traffic light. Yeah, man.
Right.
And but we got the property so low, man, that we just like, we got to win with this one.
Right.
And just ignored the signs of the impact of this traffic light. And man, we were stuck with that property probably about 8 months longer than we should. You know, and it wound up costing you about, just in this particular instance, $80,000.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
At that particular point. So now you got to try to recover from that. Sure. But I'm saying I done had a handful of traffic lights in my life. You know what I mean? Where I saw the signs, and sometimes it's over leveraging. Like, man, I'm sick of this car.
Yeah.
Man, hey, classic, Frank Kent. You know what I mean? Okay, and when I probably should have went ahead and fixed the starter.
Absolutely.
You know, and just spread that mustard off over a bunch of different things, man.
That particular season,
Yeah, so I would say in a sense like that, that's probably an instance where
Okay, all right.
made a bad financial decision.
Have you thought of another one over there? You amen.
You had a couple traffic lights. You ran a couple red lights.
I mean, just from an entrepreneur standpoint, being, trucking business, that's a whole animal in and of itself. So, a full-time pastor, starting a work, full-time entrepreneur, starting a trucking business, you got two startups simultaneously working at the same time.
In the two most difficult sectors of the market, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Transportation and religion.
At the same time, still being a husband and a father, those particular responsibilities as well. I think, you've definitely got to be called to it, and the seasons for it, but definitely a lot of lessons learned. Early mornings and late nights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, would you have navigated differently? I think I would have, based upon
Hindsight is 20/20, right?
Yeah. But I take that knowledge going forward, with understanding, hey, I paid tuition. Paid tuition for that degree. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
This sit down is a long time coming, man. We had this conversation about a year ago at dinner. And I said, man, we need to do a podcast. We need to call it Two Pastors and a Deacon. And man, I want to tell y'all, I appreciate y'all coming and being part of this. Before we close, though, we always finish with some rapid fire questions, all right? You're going to be good, man. You're going to be good. All right, so I want you to say the first thing that comes to mind, all right? So what would your next career be if God told you, hey, you done well, you're done. You can go do something else. What would you do?
Man, what would I do? Career move. To work smarter, not harder.
That's a lifestyle, not a career, though.
Man, I think I go to the stock market.
Okay, all right, stockbroker, investment strategist. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know if this is a issue or a problem, but man, I like working, and I think I'll always work. It's just really about the work that I choose to do, and I think and now hold on, wait a minute, are you saying preaching or pastoring?
No, I'm saying God says you're done, you're good. You got your place in heaven. You can go do something totally different outside of the church.
I'm gonna fund that. That's what I mean. Yeah. So you talk about still career, business, work, or whatever. It would probably be research, writing, coaching, training, developing content. You know what I mean?
That's what you're doing now.
Okay.
Yeah, but shoot, man, it's hard doing it and passionate at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, but that's probably what I would do, man. Just I would probably pour into this next and upcoming generation of pastors and church leaders. Is probably what I would do.
Stocks, real estate, or crypto?
Right now, stocks.
Wow.
You can really change the trajectory of your family and generations. Crypto, that's coming. It's now, but it's coming. I think that's more long term. I think stocks right now, and that's why I mentioned that a few minutes earlier. Shout out to Quantum Prosperous.
QP.
Because we are part of that community. It's just helping me to understand that you can reduce a lot of years of trying to get wealth.
Yeah.
Understanding this machine that has been here.
And print money every
and
day.
print money every day. and the money that you can print in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
We can be playing golf on the golf course with Dr. Kyle.
Yes, sir. Tea times at 11:30. Stocks, real estate, or crypto.
Yeah.
Man, whatever them folks at QP tell me. Shucks, man. My focus is on how to make the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I just, try to get the best advisement I can, man. I mean, I'm informed, but it's just not my grace.
Yeah.
So I just take counsel. And so, what, I don't know, man. Whatever Dr. Quigley say.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your splurge item?
Oh, man. My splurge item?
Yeah, your splurge.
An item? Okay.
Activity item, whatever it is.
Man, I don't really have
You don't have one?
Me either.
a splurge item. And that might be a downfall.
Y'all need to work less, man.
That's probably the problem.
I'm
Y'all
trying to
give
get
these
to a point
pastors
where
a
I
break.
can splurge.
Fair. That's fair. If you could go back 20 years, what financial decision do you change? Now, I heard the house, so I'm assuming that was in the last 20, so maybe that one.
20 years would be 05.
Yeah.
If I could go back 20 years, knowing what I know now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, where is this podcast going? Air.
Everywhere.
Okay,
Everywhere.
all right, let me say it the right way. Most of that stuff don't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? That you spent money on, that you was so important. I just couldn't see it 20 years ago. Certainly 30 years ago. But yeah, focus on what matters, man. Spend your time, your energy, and your money on what really, really matters. And that's hard to know when you're 20.
Exactly.
Sure.
Hard to know when
That's
you're
why we doing what we do,
25. Yeah,
so we can give them some game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
What about
great.
you?
Man,
20 years.
As you were talking, man, we were looking more so at symbols than substance.
The images that we were trying to.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think for us, the decisions that we were making 20 years ago was because of image, right? I do remember one individual. He was trying to give me some game on the real estate probably 20 years ago on how to start out in a starter home.
Yeah.
But I felt like he was hating. 'Cause I'm from Eastwood.
Yeah.
Coming up, and we try to,
Come
try
up.
to come up.
Yeah.
But what he was trying to show with me then was, stay below your means.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And do it this way to generate a portfolio. And then later on, you'll be able to sit back and, be like Dr. Kyle Quigley.
I'll say that to this, what Pastor Kelly is saying there. I'll sum it up this way. I wish I would have listened to, understood, and embraced
Right.
that old school saying, if your outgoing is greater than your income, your upkeep is going to be your down.
That's absolutely. And that's still range to today.
Yeah. It was complicated though,
Yeah.
especially in your
right.
20s, man. You got, Bone playing on this side and the
absolutely.
old school trying to tell you something over here, man.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm with y'all.
Heard my
All right.
granddaddy right now saying you moving too fast.
Moving too fast. Yeah. Granddad was hating, man. Don't worry about that. This is my last one. So this is individual. Kurt Rambis or Meta World Peace?
Neither.
Okay.
Magic Johnson.
Well, no, I was, that's obvious, right? I know who your favorite player is.
Oh.
But if you had to put a five together, you need a glue. You always got to have a crazy guy. If you're going to win a championship, you always got to have a crazy guy.
I'll probably take Meta.
Yeah,
I'll probably take Meta.
Yeah.
All right. For you,
He Ron, though, to me.
Ron?
Ron Artest.
Oh, yeah, Ron
Yeah,
Artest.
because-
Yeah. They got a warrant after that. Rolando Blackman or Kyrie Irving?
Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie Irving. Why?
Kyrie Irving.
Why?
You need somebody to run the point.
Okay, man.
Run the
Rolando
offense.
was,
He
I'm
was
saying,
good, but Kyrie
Yeah,
killed
he
it.
ain't no Kyrie. I'm tripping. Hey, man, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all to death, man, and I
Absolutely.
appreciate this
Man,
time
thank you
we've
for
been able
allowing
to
us to be
spend
a
together.
part, man.
Absolutely, man. We'll see you on the next episode.